Hey there, Jon Chorba here from ReallyEasyGuitarLessons.com, and in this video lesson, I'm going to show you 8 different ways that you can play an E chord, also known as an E major chord, on the guitar. So first thing, what is an E chord? Like I said, E and E major mean the same thing. For whatever reason, we dropped the word major from, the way we speak when we're talking about major chords. We just call them by the root note, the root being E. E major, E chord means the exact same thing. So what goes into an E chord? Well, all major chords are made up of 3 notes. An E major chord is made up of the notes E, G sharp, and B. So as long as you have E, G sharp, and B represented, you are playing an E major chord. So I'm going to walk you through 8 different ways to put those notes together to create an E major chord. So the first way is what I call the super beginner way, where if you are literally just bought your guitar 2 days ago, and you want to get into playing chords, here is the easiest way to play an E major chord on the guitar. You take your first finger and you put it on the G string of the 1st fret, and you keep the B string and the E string open, and you just play those 3 strings, the G, B, and E string, only fretting 1. Watch out, you don't want your finger to touch the B string, so you got to get up on the tip of your finger and get those 3 strings working, and you got yourself an E major chord. So if you are starting to learn songs and you're on the really, really new side of stuff, that version of an E chord is really great to throw in there because it's super easy to do. The second way is the most common way, and the way that you're gonna use a whole lot. You're gonna use your first finger on the 1st fret of the G string, your second finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, and your 3rd finger on the 2nd fret of the D string, and all the other strings are open. E major in the open position, also called a cowboy chord, right? The open position chords are often called cowboy chords. And there is an E major. Again, you are going to see this version a whole lot. All right, the 3rd and 4th way are going to be using power chords. So I said there were 3 notes in an E major chord: E, G sharp, and B. I don't want to get super into the theory here, but E is called the root note, which gives the chord its name, right? G sharp is what's called the 3rd of the chord, which makes the chord become major. It's the note that makes it sound happy and bright. And B is called the 5th of the chord, which provides the chord with stability, okay? So if we removed the G sharp and just played the notes E and B, we're playing something called a power chord, or also technically called a 5 chord, right? But you're just playing 2 notes, and here is a way to do an E power chord on the guitar. You have your open E string, your 2nd fret A string, and you just play those 2 notes. That's an E, that's a B. So this isn't a major chord, so it's not technically an E chord. But again, if you're on the newer side of stuff, and you're playing something that it's tough to transition to the E chord to, you could substitute out an E major chord for this E power chord. It might not sound 100% right, but it won't sound bad either, okay? So there's the first way you could do it. You could also make this be called what I call an extended power chord, where you are using your first finger to hold down 2 strings, the A string of the 2nd fret and the D string of the 2nd fret, along with the open E string. Play those 3 strings. That's an E, that's a B, and that's an E again. Either way is fine. They're both an E power chord, and you could substitute that out if you need to. The other way to play an E power chord would be down here on the 7th fret of the A string, using my first finger on the 7th fret of the A, and my 3rd finger on the 9th fret of the D, and playing those 2 notes at the same time gives me an E power chord as well. And I could extend that by putting my 4th finger on the G string, still an E power chord, just a little bit of a different sound. So E power chord there, E power chord there. The fifth way is what I call the big ass power chord. So you take the same shape that we just did, the extended power chord, the 7th fret of the A string, the 9th fret of the D string, the 9th fret of the G string, but now we're gonna keep the low E open, the B open, and the high E open, okay? So all the other strings are open. And that's a really pretty sounding chord. Gotta do some shameless self-promotion here. I have a song that I wrote called Me, You, and Ed. You can listen to it on Spotify, on YouTube, anywhere where streaming music is. And the first chord that I play in that song is that version of an E, a big ass E power chord. This is also good too if you're playing with somebody else and somebody's playing the standard version of an E, you know, you could pick around in this version, create some little sounds over somebody else playing the conventional E major chord. The sixth way is a bar chord, which is tricky. So I'm gonna show you 2 ways to do this bar chord. No matter which way you do it, if you're on the newer side, this is probably gonna give you a little bit of trouble because it's tricky, but you will see this version used in songs. So here, I'm gonna do it at the 7th fret, and I'm gonna make that extended power chord shape, but instead of using multiple fingers, I'm gonna use just my 3rd finger to hold down the D, G, and B string, all right? I'm not gonna play the high E. My 1st finger is just playing the 7th fret of the A, and I'm playing just from the A to the B string. So there's an E major chord there. You could also do this shape where you use 3 fingers, kind of like you're making an A chord with these 3 fingers, and then you use your 1st finger to bar. Tricky to do higher up the neck because the frets are close together. It's tough to get that chord to sound 100% clean with this fingering. I never do it this way. I'm struggling to do it right now because it's very weird. I never do it that way. I usually always do it like this, but know that it could be done like that as well. All right, so bar chords are hard, but I gotta throw it out there because you will see that version a lot in songs. The 7th way is what I call the Hendrix F. That is where you do an F shape for an E chord. It's gonna be on the 12th fret of the B string, the 13th fret of the G string, and the 14th fret of the D string. Now you could either play just those 3 notes from the D string to the B string, or you could Hendrix-ify it by bringing your thumb over the top, which is pretty tricky to do, especially in this part of the neck. Bring your thumb over the top and hold down this 12th fret of the E string. When you do this, you want your thumb to catch the A string and make sure it's muted because you don't want it ringing open. You're not holding it down. It's only holding down on the 12th fret of the E. But that A string's muted. So I got an E string, 12th fret, muted A string, 14, 13, 12. No extra charge for me making mistakes here. A little tricky to do, but this is a movable shape that you'll see. It's a little bit more comfortable doing it in other positions, but to make it be an actual E chord, you need to do it at the 12th fret. Very common Hendrix-style E chord. And the 8th way is doing what I call the C shape, which is tricky to play, but it's worth knowing for fretboard visualization purposes because knowing how to visualize that these are where the notes of an E chord are come in handy. And also, players like John Mayer and John Frusciante and Jimi Hendrix use this shape quite frequently. So this one is, I got the 7th fret of the A string with my pinky finger, the 6th fret of the D string with my ring finger, the 4th fret of the B string with my 1st finger, and the 2nd fret of the B string with my 2nd finger. So 7, 6, 4, 5, 4th finger, 3rd finger, 1st finger, 2nd finger. Play from the A string to the B string. You could actually technically have the open E's involved too, because they're in the chord, but this shape is movable, so let's keep it just to the A and B string for now. So there are a lot of different ways to play an E chord. That's not all of them, but those are probably 8 of the most common ways that you're gonna see an E chord played on the guitar. I would say the second way, the open position chord, is by far and away the most commonly used. So you gotta be familiar with that, but familiarize yourself with all the other ones because you will see them in songs that you learn. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. If you have any suggestions on any other videos you'd like to see me do, leave a comment below. Be happy to take a look at them. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button to get more videos like this. If you are a beginner or intermediate guitar player and you are totally lost, confused, overwhelmed, not sure what you should be working on, head over to reallyeasyguitarlessons.com/quiz where you can take my free guitar practicing assessment. I'll ask you a few short questions, and then based off of your answers, I will tell you what your top practicing priorities are. You could find that at reallyeasyguitarlessons.com/quiz. It's totally free. Results are delivered instantly. Again, reallyeasyguitarlessons.com/quiz. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time.